Let's do this. Overtime Sports Show is back. Episode 7. Can't believe we've been doing this thing for 7 weeks now. We're back in our regularly scheduled time slot. I'm Greg Gross. My co-host is Dan O'Brien. Dan, how you doing?
Doing awesome. Ready for another 7 show. Ready to rock and roll. We got some good stuff happening and just ready to make it happen.
Got a lot of good stuff happening. A lot, right?
Oh, yeah. So much. Rocking and motherfucking rolling.
You know it. You know it. So leading out the show, we talked about it. I got to see what you got in store for me for a hat this week. Let me see it.
You are going to love it, my friend. Boom, boom, boom. Woo! My man.
I'm honored right now.
Oh, yeah. I know you didn't. You know there's a little backstory with this hat. You know the story.
So, man, you threw me for a loop because we were all set to lead out with some NFL talk like we usually do, but let's just go rogue and go off script. I mean, you got to be doing this for the hire that was announced this week, and I had some thoughts. I wanted to pick your brain. Just tell me what you think. Give me the backstory on what us Mets fans can expect from your boy Mendoza.
Carlos Mendoza. He's been in the Yankees organization for 15 years. He's been in the minor league organization for 11 years. The last 4 years, he was a bench coach with Aaron Boone. So what you guys are going to get is a really good coach, really good manager, a player manager. And funny, as I was listening to our friends Boomer and Giro this morning, Mendoza had a lot of games to manage because Aaron Boone, as we know, is a hothead. So he was thrown out, I want to say, 14, 15 games this past year. And he had 15 games to manage. So, like I said, what you're going to get is you're going to get a player coach. You're going to get a coach that cares about his players and a coach that's been through the system with young players, middle-aged players, and veterans. So I think you're going to be very happy with him.
Yeah. Well, that's music to my ears. I'm glad you brought up the fact that he's been around for 15 years because I saw that as well. But to be honest, I didn't know much about him. I had no idea he'd been around for that long.
Yeah.
Kind of thought he was a younger guy. I think he is fairly young. He's, I think, 43 I saw. But it's good to know that he's been around the organization for a while. I'll be honest, again, when I saw a Yankees bench coach, first thought that ran through my head was bench coach. What the hell is that? What is this guy? What's his role? What's he been doing? Because he sounds like he's been a little behind the scenes, but I had no idea he actually stepped up when Boone got tossed. So
yeah, he was. So that goes as like a number one bench guy when your manager gets ejected. He's the number one guy that steps in, and sometimes
like
Boone would,
coach, right?
Assistant coach. Yeah, and Boone would go off the hinges sometimes, as you saw. So he would be in, second inning, third inning, managing the rest of the game. So you got to understand what that comes with your pitching staff, your lineup changes, and then also seeing how the game goes. So you guys are getting a hell of a coach. Sorry to see him go, but crosstown rivals. I still got a little bit of love for the Mets, but the main reason why I'm wearing this hat is also because of Carlos Mendoza, and also because when I bought this hat, bought it at Citi Field and witnessed a no-hitter, as you know, the second no-hitter in Mets history. Combined no-hitter, but still one of the coolest things I've ever seen at a baseball stadium, baseball in general, and baseball in live. So there was 2 stories to this hat. You caught the first one, and the second one was just the no-hitter. So I just wanted to touch on that, which was really, really cool. I think I had you on the phone. Remember, we were yelling a lot of FES to a lot of people coming by, giving a lot of high fives, and just making it happen, dude. It was so cool. So cool.
You did have me on the phone for that. I won't forget that either. You were in jubilation, and I was as well. I was touched that you were as excited as you were, but it doesn't surprise me given what kind of a moment that probably was. I'd be lucky enough to see a no-hitter one day, hopefully.
I mean, our buddy Chip Lawrence would probably be loving that too, watching a no-hitter live. I mean, still bringing him around after a couple of weeks.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
So
I love the hat, my man. Thanks for the nod.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm honored. I don't want to leave the subject just yet because I got a couple more thoughts on it. I was listening to, I think it was Boomer and Gio. It might have been Sal Licata. I can't remember who it was on the Fan, but they were talking about the hire, and I think people had the same opinion as me, as they didn't really know who Mendoza was. I already saw naturally a lot of people were criticizing the hire. Of course, everybody loves to, criticized before the guy even has a game under his belt. But they were criticizing him because it's just not a sexy hire, right? I didn't know who he was. A lot of people probably didn't know who he was. And I think people expected the Mets, especially with Cohen, he's got these amazing deep pockets now, for the Mets to just go after the guy who is the most well-known, maybe the most expensive, just to make that flashy, sexy hire behind the bench. And it kind of caught me because I'm thinking we just had Buck. Everybody knows Showalter. The guy's been around for decades. So the Mets already had that. They've already been there. They already tried that. I think it was a little early to give him the axe. He had success. They won 100 games 2 years ago. This past year, it didn't work out so well. So I don't really know why they moved on from him so quickly. But the point is, the Mets already went with the guy that is well known. And there's already people out there criticizing the Mets for bringing in someone who's not unknown. So I'm all for it. I again, didn't know who he was. It's nice to hear your story on it. Kind of that inside scoop from a Yankees fan for so many years. So I'm optimistic, but I disagree with the people who are criticizing the organization for going with a lesser known guy, because to me, that's just not fair.
Yeah, well, going off of your point, they did the high hire with Buck Showalter, the big flashy hire 2 years ago. And for whatever reason, they didn't like it. But they got this new kid, David Stearns, in there as, going to be the general manager, per se, the president. And he's a young kid. And this kid, Mendoza, who's coming in, I know we call him a kid. He's older than me and you, but still a kid in baseball age. He's very analytical. So what he's doing is listening to Boomer and Gio this morning. He was more part of the analyticals for the Yankees. And me and you being old school Yankee or old school MLB guys, we don't like analytics, but it's, as we talk with Chip, analytics is point of the game. It's going towards analytics. And what this guy Mendoza is going to do is he's going to bring the analytic part to the Mets. And what that means is he's probably going to hire a lot of young coaches that are going to be coming up through the minor leagues that he's known through his 15 years in baseball. So I would expect, and this is me just throwing it out there, I would expect more hires on a no-name basis, meaning like Dan O'Brien as a pitcher coach, Greg Gross as a hitting coach. No, just meaning like lifelong baseball players, baseball coaches, baseball minds, but they're not very flashy. And I think what Steve Cohen's doing is he's doing the right thing. He hired this guy, David Stearns, who's, I want to say he's probably in between me and you. I think he's 39 years old, maybe 40. And he's been with the Brewers. So he's hiring analytical people and young people. And I don't know if you remember when Max Scherzer left, he said that he met with Steve Cohen and they said, 2024 is going to be a iffy year, and then we're going to move towards it with these young players. I mean, they got Acuña's brother from the Rangers, who's a beast. So it's looking like they're going analytical and they're going young. And I mean, I'm all for it. Like I said, I'm not the hugest Mets fan, but I got a little love for me because they're New York Mets. And I think it's a move towards the right spot. Look at what happened last year. They had the highest payroll, and what happened?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, you never do know what's going to happen, and that's why I did see what you were mentioning. The Mets were really looking towards 24, 25, which I kind of have to take issue with that too. I'm all for having a plan and for being forward looking, but to already sort of throw in the towel on a season that hasn't even begun yet, I don't know. I don't like that at all. I mean, how can you go as a fan? How can you spend hard-earned money, going to a game, investing your time and your energy into something when you know deep down that the team is sort of already kind of mailing it in and looking one season beyond what's about to happen? But I guess that's neither here nor there.
It's going to be a time tell. Just real quick before we move on to NFL, it'll be a time tell to see what they do with your boy Alonso, because as you know, as I know, he's going into his free agent year. So it's going to be time tell to say if they are going to re-sign him or if they're going to trade him if they go off to a crap start. So that's really going to say if they're going all future, all young, or if they're going to try to build around Lindor and Alonso and Nemo. I mean, those are the three studs, if I would have to say. So,
to be honest, I don't know how they don't keep them. What's it going to come down to? It's not going to be money. Cohen will pay whatever it is to keep these guys. So I think maybe it's a matter of, do they want to be here? I hope they do. Hopefully they're buying into the moves that the organization's making, but I have a hard time believing that it's going to be money that would stand in the way of them being here long term. I would hate to lose Pete.
Oh yeah, he's like a judge.
Yeah, exactly. He's a guy you can, I think, build your team around. They've already sort of started to do that. And I like his feistiness. I really do. The
So do
guy,
I.
some of his interviews he gives, he's funny. He's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I think he embodies your typical New Yorker. And I think that's what Mets fans have to hang on to right now, because this season was pretty bleak. And to lose a guy like Alonso, who, again, has that good personality that I think people can relate to. But not only that, he produces on the field. Production wise, he's been exactly, I think, what we've been looking for and have needed, for at least consistency wise. So I would hate to lose him. Going back to your no name kind of comment and seeing more coaches that are lesser known, I think you're right. And it's tough, I think, for the fans to accept that sometimes, because if you don't know somebody, you're just naturally going to have a lot of questions and wonder what they're going to bring, what the future is going to look like. But to your point, we're seeing that more and more. I mean, I guess the Mets are going to see a lot of Jonah Hill guys from Moneyball, right? Those kind of sabermetrics guys who are all analytics based. They're young,
Yep.
they're up and coming. They want to change the game. They want to be revolutionary. And you got to start somewhere, so I'm all for giving some coaches a shot, moving them up the ranks in the organization. So I'm excited. And, we're seeing that in the business world too. Sports is a business, but think about anybody else, we're seeing that in the world we live in today, where people are coming to work, they're ditching the suit and tie and the dress pants and the dress shoes, and they're coming to work in flip-flops and sandals and tank tops. It's the CEOs of these big companies. They're different than the way things were 20, 30 years ago. So who's to say that some of these young guys coming up the ranks with different ideologies can't have success in the major leagues? So I'm excited. I'm on board, and I'm optimistic.
Yeah, look at Stephen Voigt, just got hired by the Indians. / Guardians, whatever you want to call them these days. I'm still going Indians, just like I'm going Redskins. But they just hired him. He retired in 2022, so 1 year out of baseball, and they just hired him, Stephen Voigt, catcher. So a lot of like I said, it's going to go off of young guys and analytics. It's the way of the game. So
it is the way of the future.
It's very exciting. And before we get on to football, one more thing. I mean, a couple years ago, Aaron Boone brought in a no-name pitching coach named Matt Blake. And if you look at Matt Blake's pitching coach's stats over the last 3 years that he's been there, the pitching staff has been top 10, top 5. So it just really goes with people hardworking, doing their research and doing their analytics. And like I said, when I started this, me and you don't like analytics, but I know I don't. I'm not really speaking for you, but I know we've talked about it. I mean, I like old school baseball, but it's the way of the change, and you kind of got to either go with it or get left behind. And I think that these owners and these coaches are going with the game of the change. So that's just my thoughts.
No, I'm with you in lockstep. It's not that I don't like analytics at all. I think there's absolutely a place for it. I think last week we talked about embracing technology, really as it relates to player safety and things like that. But even just utilizing technology and the stats that are out there, I think it absolutely has a place in the game. And I would consider myself probably sort of a hybrid approach, maybe somewhere in the middle, because I definitely think analytics, you have to look at the stats, right? Numbers don't lie. And you can go really, really deep and off into a tangent in some of these stats. And that's maybe where, you start to lose me a little bit. And then on the flip side, you got old school guys who believe in the fundamentals, the intangibles, and things like that. And sometimes
5-tool players.
5-tool players. And sometimes you just can't beat the eye test, right? If you think about Chip, a scout for the MLB, or
that's what he told us
for the NFL, hockey. Sometimes you look at a guy and he has it or he doesn't have it. You don't need to see those specific stats jump off the page at you in order to know if the guy has it. So I'm definitely down the middle. And like I said, for the Mets, whatever they were doing the last couple of years wasn't really working. I mean, they had that 100-win season, but they had an early exit, didn't even make it past that wild card round. So I'm open to a change. And if these analytics guys bring us another playoff berth and God forbid another World Series, then I'm in.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's a good hire, and it's a good hire coming from great organization, as I would say so myself. So
yeah. So before we turn the page, one last thing. Our
sure.
last show, we we did it live, obviously, when Game 5 of the World Series was
Oh
going
shoot.
down,
Yep.
and yeah, we were both wrong about the ultimate champion. We neither one of us picked the Rangers. Um, we asked each other if we thought it was going to go to another game 6 or 7. I thought it was going to end that day just the way it was going, and it did. Um, I'm curious, who do you like next year? I know it's really early. There's a full off season. There's a lot of moves to be made, but if you had to look ahead to next year's champion, we talked about this too. There hasn't been a back-to-back World Series champion since your boys. So,
Exactly. Since my boys.
do you think the Rangers do it? And if they don't, who else do you see as a potential champion for next year?
So you're gonna call Homer pick for me, my man. But my New York Yankees are gonna have a great chance. And the reason why I say this, no, don't shake your head. I see you. The reason why I say this, is everybody knows Aaron Judge. He was out more than half the season, and you saw what he did when he was there. He almost hit. I mean, he hit 30 home runs pretty much in 85 games, if so. So Aaron Judge coming back a full season. Giancarlo, either we trade him or we keep him. Giancarlo is not going to hit a $1.99 again. And we're going to be out there. We got this Japanese pitcher, Yokoyora Yorimiya. I don't know if you've seen him out there, but he's got a weird name.
No.
We're going to be going after him, and we're going to get Josh Hader is going to be our closer. So that's my bold move. We're going to get Josh Hader as a closer. We're going to give him big money, probably Edwin Diaz money, but he's worth it. And
Let's hope he doesn't play in the World Baseball Classic.
well, luckily for us, he's an American, and luckily for us, it's not happening this year. So,
Yeah.
but and then I think I've been reading a lot of articles that we're going to go after Juan Soto, and the reason why I say that is I did read an interesting article about the Padres. Not sure if it was true or not, but I saw they had to take out a couple loans to even pay payroll, pay the stadium costs, and everything. So they're drowning in money, and they have a lot of contracts. They have Machado making $300 million. They got Xander Bogaerts making close to $300 million. And Juan Soto, he's still on a contract, but he's making probably close to $15-16 million. So it's going to give up a lot for us, but I want to say that we're going to be really going hard for Juan Soto. And you stick Juan Soto in that lineup, I think the Yanks got a good chance. I mean, the Cy Young hasn't been announced yet, but Garrett Cole's going to win the Cy Young, 100% guaranteed. You can write it down on your little paper right there. He's going to win it. And
all right, let me do that. Who you got? Cy Young?
Garrett Cole, Cy Young, 100%. Write it down. Put it on the block. You got it. Just like our boy, I don't know if you remember Hawk Harrelson. He used to be a Chicago White Sox announcer a couple years ago when they hit a home run. He said, you could put it on the board. Yeah. So you can put it on the board for Garrett Cole. There you go.
You heard it here first.
You heard it
Cy
here
Young
first.
Cole.
Yes, sir.
Like
so, no, I mean, this year he's going to win it, and he'll win back-to-back if you want to do it for next year, too. I was talking about this year, but we'll be fine for next year, too.
Right. Yeah.
And
no, I like it.
Just a healthy Yankee squad. I believe that we have a good chance. So I would say Yankees in the American League, and the Diamondbacks are a young team, too. If you looked at their team, Corbin Carroll and their pitching staff was young as heck. So the Diamondbacks will be back, and the Phillies will be back. So between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks and the Yankees and the Rangers in the American League, obviously Yankees versus Phillies. Yankees win in 7.
Yeah. Well, you named a lot of teams, especially young, but you didn't name the one that I had my eye on, and I picked them to go far this year, and it didn't work out. I'm thinking maybe they were just a year early, a little premature, but I think the O's got some magic. They're a team.
Oh, yeah.
We know they have no payroll, but they're young on paper. I think they're hungry. I think they're building something out there. They were pretty bad for quite a while, but I was impressed with what they did this year, and I think they're going to be back. I think the Rays will be in the mix. I think you guys will be in the mix. That division, it's always competitive. You can never count the Sox out, and the Blue Jays were good this year. So that division I expect to be really, really tight again next year. I think the key probably comes down to what you said. I mean, it's true for any team, any sport. Can you stay healthy? Because if you lose a guy like Judge, he's just hard to replace. He's not a guy that you can just go out, bring up from the minors and find them anywhere. So staying healthy will be key. But I like your shot. I like you calling it.
What about you? What about in National League? Who you like in there?
How do you pick against the Braves? I mean, they disappointed
Oh,
in
the
the playoffs,
Bravos.
but they're just, for me, it's depth. Depth in any sport will likely win a championship for you. I've said that since I was real young. Just it's who assembles the best, most complete roster, in my opinion. I don't think you need the most expensive player. I don't think you need the guy who wins the MVP, hits the most home runs, scores the most goals, throws the most touchdowns. I think you need the most complete team, top to bottom. And when you look at that Braves roster, I still think that they're up there. Certainly in the National League anyway. There's some teams that are close, and especially on the American League, there's some deep teams there. But I got to run it back with the Braves again. I think they're just really deep.
Makes sense. We'll probably see them
Yeah.
again in spring training like we did last year. So we'll be
Oh
seeing them
yeah,
again. Oh yeah.
that was a time. That was a
Oh,
good time.
that was a great time. And we're gonna be on the field with old Chip in Lakeland to watch the Tigers too. So we'll be good to go.
We need to make that happen. We need to call up Chip's people.
Oh, we will. Our people will contact his people. We'll make it work.
That's right. That's right.
Oh yeah. Last time I saw 128 views on his interview. So that's wowzers.
Getting there.
27 minutes, 128 views. That's impressive.
Getting there.
Very
Not only
impressive.
He's distributed it, we haven't asked him to send that out. So that's just pure, organic, natural views.
Yep. The greatness.
Like it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So probably can turn the page now to some football. We usually lead out with that, but I like going just wrapping up MLB because it'll probably be a little while before we talk that again. We got a pretty long break before we get to spring training, but it was a good end of the season. I was happy for Bochy, but a lot of NFL action this past week. It seems like each week I'm a little bit more and more surprised about a few teams. And I'm just going to go right out and say, I guess that I have to apologize once again. My lock week. I think you know where I'm going with this. It's funny because I mentioned this last week that the week prior I was maybe disrespecting the Ravens, maybe not disrespecting them, but just not giving them the kudos that they clearly deserve. And this past week, I kind of thought that the Seahawks would give them a little bit of a run for their money. And they were my upset. I'm looking at it here. I had them getting 6 points, and they got steamrolled.
37-3, my man.
37-3. I wasn't even in the ballpark on that one. That one was pretty wrong. So I just got to offer that sincere apology to the Ravens because yet again, I mean, I don't know what more I could say now is they're the real deal. There's nothing else they need to prove. I don't think good this season other than getting to the playoffs, winning a playoff game, and maybe for them, Lamar is still chasing that Lombardi trophy. But regular season so far, I mean, they just cleaned the clock of Detroit a couple weeks ago, and they're nothing to slouch on. And now here with the Seahawks again, who were also nothing to slouch on, they completely mopped them up. And it was a surprise to me. I expected a competitive game. That's why I took Seattle as my upset to maybe keep it within a touchdown. And I've just color me impressed. I'm thoroughly impressed with the Ravens, and they look like absolute juggernauts. And just some of the other teams, I'll let you share your thoughts in a sec, but the teams that continue to surprise me, I know the Dolphins played a good team in the Chiefs. They were over in Germany this week. Maybe the travel has something to do with it. I don't put too much stock into that because the Chiefs traveled too. I know teams go on different days. Some go early, some go late, but it's no more than a couple days apart, and they're both in the same conditions. So to me, that's just an excuse. But the Dolphins, they didn't look right. They didn't look the same, at least in the first half. They kept it a little close at the end, but something's wrong. And you've probably seen the stats. I think the Dolphins were 3-0 against teams with a losing record and 0-3 against teams with a winning record, something of that nature. And to me, that says something. They're clearly having a tough time beating or even staying competitive with the teams like the Ravens, who are the juggernauts of the NFL, the Chiefs, and some of these others. So those are a couple games that stood out to me. I'm sure you got some thoughts and maybe some games that stood out to you.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that too. The Dolphins, 0-3 against winning records and 6-0 against losing records. So that kind of
Yeah.
speaks for itself. I mean, they're putting the number on everybody else, and then when they put up or shut up, they shut up. You know what I'm saying? The old saying.
Yeah.
So I know you touched on one of your locks. Do we want to touch that now, or do you want to wait until the end of the show? I know you touched on your Seahawks.
Go for it.
Remember what I told you about my Vikings, man? I told you they were going to keep coming strong. 31-28, my dude. And I knew it. And we'll touch on a little fantasy here in a little bit, but I'm switching over to my boy Daubers. Oh, yeah. He's going to be on the squad Nick tomorrow for fantasy. So when waiver wires come out, you'll see him switching from Minshew Mania to Dauber for the Whopper, man.
How are you going to do Minshew like that? That's cold when Minshew wins you a game. I mean, it wasn't sexy. I was looking at his stats and
it wasn't sexy, but it wasn't good. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't good. Hey, it's like the old adage goes.
Minshew Mania got you the win, and now you're just shooting them to the curb.
Well, you know what they say. My boy Joshua Dobbs, man, I'm picking him up. So he'll be coming to the waivers on the squad tomorrow, unless somebody outbids me, which I don't think they will because I put a lot of money out there. And
it's moves like that it's moves like that will take a GM to assemble a team that's 3-6. Just saying, it's moves like that.
Well,
you disrespect your
players. It will also do a moves from somebody like we said last week, who's back-to-back champions and has won 3 times in the league. And we always ask you, how many have you won?
Hey,
that's all we got.
This is a what have you done for me lately league that we play in. Okay.
And who won the championship recently, sir?
I don't recall. I don't know.
Oh, all right. Plead the fifth, my
yesterday's
dude.
news.
Plead the fifth, my dude. Plead the fifth, my dude. And then my other lock was the Colts, 27-13, as you said. I'm going to do Minshew dirty, but that's okay. I need more than 15 points a week. So Minshew did what he had to do, and that is what it is. But
I got to give you your kudos on this. And again, we're kind of going out of our normal sequence, but it is what it is.
Which is fine. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
We'll come back to it later when we actually make our picks this week. But you nailed it this week. Actually, heading into this past week, I was a game up on you in terms of our record, our standings. I was. What was I? I got it here. I was 5-5. I was even. You were 4-6 on the year. You went 2-0. You got your upset and your lock. So you're sitting now the game up on me at 6-6. I was wrong on both. I obviously had Seattle very wrong. My my lock of the week was Tampa. It was close. If Stroud didn't form that sort of amazing comeback that he did, I would have had Tampa and I would have been 1-1 and we would have been tied. But to your credit, you're a game up on me now, and we'll get to our picks later. But I got to give you some kudos because you formed a nice comeback going 2-0 for the week.
Yes, sir. And then a couple other games I wanted to touch on too is just our sad Giants, man. We touched on them. We've touched on them all year, all show. I mean, all shows that we've had, 30-6, and I watched that game when Daniel Jones tore his ACL. I knew it. I mean, he was going to push back, and it just gave out. And the Raiders, like we talked about, the Raiders just came out rolling with that debut coach, Antonio Pierce, 30-6. They looked really good, and they got the Jets this week too, and the Jets looked horrible last night. If you watched that game or read about it, they looked really bad. Gave up 8 sacks to the Chargers, which they have a really formidable defensive line with Khalil Mack and Nick Bosa, but besides that, I mean, they looked god awful. So football in New York, besides Buffalo, is not looking good. I mean, Buffalo lost 2, but they're still 5-4. And looks like the Bengals, after that bye, it looks like Joe Burrow is 100%. They were 348 yards and 2 touchdowns. So,
and they are just having fun out in Cincinnati, aren't they? I mean, Joe Burrow looks like he's back. I was dogging him this season. He didn't look right. Maybe it was his injury. I mean, I don't know if did you catch the post-game interview he did? I don't know if it was.
Yeah, he said I can run now. Yeah, he said I can run. Yeah, he said I can run.
He said I can run. Yeah, what's the difference between your success now and earlier this season? I can run. It's so easy.
He says, I can run.
Such an easy answer.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Did you see what the crowd did too? They did a little zoo, a little black. They did a little black and orange. Did you see the zoo in the crowd? It was really cool.
No, I didn't see that. Oh man, I missed that.
Yeah, so each section it was black, orange, black, orange. It was really cool.
Oh,
yeah.
They're
having a lot of fun out there.
I did see that. That must have been a bitch to coordinate. I mean,
it is what it is.
I guess. Loyal
They
Bengals
probably gave
fans
out.
staying in touch.
They probably gave out shirts if I had to guess.
Yeah, that would make sense. Even still, I bet you, there's people that wearing different jerseys probably wouldn't want to put it on. And how would they
Yep.
how would they know your size? I mean, do they have people standing out at the gates, giving the right size to people to put that shirt on? I don't know. I'm impressed. Now that you told me what that was, I did see it. And part of me, actually, you know what I thought it was? I'm sure it was a sellout crowd, but I was kind of wondering if it was just the seats, the colors of the seats that I wasn't actually seeing. Sometimes you could see the seats behind people and whatnot. I thought it was the different sections, but you're telling me that was actually people wearing shirts or colors. That's pretty
I see what
impressive.
you're
I
saying.
like that.
Yep.
Yeah. It's impressive. I like that.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Yeah,
they did a good job. Very, very,
they're just
very
having
good.
fun out there in Cincy, and I'm glad you mentioned the Bengals because there's someone else that I wanted to bring up. I don't understand what's going on with the Bills. Complete opposite, if you ask me, of what's going on in Cincy. I mean, they started out slow and looked pretty bad. Something was off, and they turned it around. And the Bills are the opposite. They started off pretty well, and now it doesn't seem like they can do anything right. It just seems like it's getting worse week to week. And I don't know if you caught this. Normally, I'm a fan of guys celebrating, even being a little bit arrogant at times, but I think you have to know your place. You have to know that the time to do it. And Josh Allen, I think, answered the Bengals' first touchdown in the game. I think made it 7-7, and he got a taunting penalty when he walked into the end zone. He did a pump fake. He got the defender to bite on it. It was a great play. And Allen walks into the end zone, and he's sort of trotting, and he's got this just cocky, eating grin on his face, and he got a penalty for it, which was deserved. And what do? They end up losing the game. So to me, he just kind of looks like, I don't know, for lack of a better word, he looks like a schmuck. He looks like an idiot. And it's not that I don't like the taunting. I like, him being a little bit sort of cocky, but just wrong place, wrong time. You got to save that for the end of the game, maybe when you are pretty confident you're going to come away with the win. First quarter, there was a lot of game to play, and they were on the wrong side of that. So I think Josh Allen needs a dose of reality, a big reality check coming his way, because he's just not the same dominant quarterback that he was a couple years ago, where he could really carry the team on his shoulders. And not much has changed out there. I mean, they don't have a running back, but Dalton Kincaid's having a decent season. He still has Diggs. Gabriel Davis is a fine second weapon. I know they're missing Dayball. I don't know. I mean, Dayball's not having a great season with the Jets, but
Giants.
There's not much different out there in our Giants, and there's not much different out there with the Bills. And I just think a lot of it has to, as the quarterback, you get a lot of the praise when things are going well, and a lot of the blame falls on your shoulders when they're not going well. And I think you got to put a lot of blame on Josh Allen's shoulders right now, especially if he's going to do this taunting stuff that you saw.
Yeah, I think just two things with Josh Allen. I think one, the league is starting to defend him, learning how to defend him with his running and his passing. And then two, I think he's just pressing the ball. I want to say he's got the most interceptions he's had in his career through 9 games, because I just really do think that he's pressing. And I do think that defenses are scheming against him and knowing how to do quarterback spies. I saw a replay that they showed, and they had 2 linebackers doing a spy. So you get that 2 linebacker spy, and then you just go for a blitz. So you take away his running, and he's got a good arm, but he's going to throw it, and he's going to press it and throw an interception. And I believe that those are the 2 factors that are really getting with Josh Allen now. I just think that people are figuring out how to defend him. I mean, remember back in the day, Michael Vick had 3 good years, and people figured out how to defend him, and look what happened. He went from badass to mediocre like that quick after defenses got him. So I think it's just a whole thing of everything, a little arrogancy, as you were saying, with that taunting penalty. I mean, I get it. It's a touchdown. I get it was a good pump fake, but it's the first freaking quarter. Get out of here, dude. So just,
I feel the same.
Yeah, I don't like that stuff. I mean, I'm with you. I like celebrating, but in the first freaking quarter, I mean, don't be a jackass to be a jackass. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. To me, that was premature. I think you're right. I think it's apparent that Allen is gripping. He's forcing the ball, like you said. he's trying to put it all on his shoulders. So I give him that credit. It's just, I guess, lack of execution and maybe trying a little bit too hard. And I think his coaching staff does have to help him out, find creative ways to win games if teams are actually figuring him out, if they know the book on him. And I'm not trying to say all hope is lost, because I think he's got a ton of talent. So,
me too.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think this is the end of Allen by any means. A good comparison, in all honesty, might be somebody like Peyton Manning. I mean, he led the league in interceptions, I think, a few times throughout his career. He was known for it, but he's got a couple Super Bowls, and he's arguably probably top 5 quarterback all time. And, Allen's had a good career up till this point, but it does seem like he's maybe not regressing, but slowing down. I think you're right. I think teams are figuring him out. And, going back to what you mentioned about the Giants, the Jets, it is pretty abysmal right now being a New York football fan. Neither team seems like they can do anything right either. The Giants just they're a hot mess right now. It's hard to be competitive when you're on your third string quarterback. They can't seem to catch a break. I'll say that. I was hopeful that they would beat the Raiders this past week, because I've said it before in the show. I think the Raiders are a mess as well. Definitely adds salt in the wounds knowing it was Antonio Pierce, former Giants player, a guy I watched for a number of years, and was happy that he was a key part of a couple of our teams. He was just a force at linebacker, and no doubt that he might be able to have a long, successful career at coach. But guy's first ever game, you certainly think that Giants coaches who have more experience should have the edge in that factor, but didn't seem to make much of a difference. And like I said, the Giants just can't catch a break injury-wise. I was excited to see what Jones and Barkley could do being on the field together for the first time in a while, and it didn't last very long. First quarter or so, Jones goes down. He's done for the year. Taylor's still out, so now we're looking at Tommy DeVito for the next 7 whatever games are left to close out the season. So I'm never a guy who wants to play for picks. I don't think, I've said it before in the show, I don't think players can give up. I don't think coaches can give up. And as a fan, I can't give up. But, you got to see the writing on the wall. We're already looking to next year. Unfortunately, it's just unrealistic, I think, to think that the Giants are going anywhere with DeVito, given the hole they're already in. And especially if you look at the rest of the division, Eagles look like they're the best team in the league, and Dallas isn't far behind them. And the Jets, man, I'm not a Jets fan, but man, they look like they're still in a world of trouble too. And keep seeing these things about Rodgers trying to come back for the end of the season. I don't think it's going to happen. It's just too much of a risk for him to rush coming back from that type of injury. And Wilson seems like he's hot and cold. I mean, some weeks he looks like he could be a game manager and maybe get the Jets to the promised land, but other weeks their offense just looks like they've got nothing. And that game yesterday was a hard watch. I don't know what it is about some Monday Night Football games, but it was just bad to me watching the Chargers and the Jets, because neither team was really impressive. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. I mean, the Jets were just abysmal. They look at Zach Wilson. I mean, his only really good game was at the second half against the Chiefs when they came back and almost won. I mean, they played the Eagles well and they beat the Eagles, but the Eagles kind of gave that one away, I feel. So it's just, I think he's just hot and cold, and more cold than hot. And as our boy Gio in the morning says, they just need to get rid of him and cut him loose. But for some reason, Saleh likes him, and I don't know why, but he's got promise. He just doesn't know how to put everything together, is my thoughts. So
is he going to go down as – do you think he'll go down as the second worst second overall pick ever? Because you know who the worst second overall pick is, right?
Yeah, your boy Ryan Leaf.
Yeah, of course. So do you think – well, I don't think Wilson's quite that bad, but do you think he'll go down as the second worst? I mean, I bring it up because he was a second overall pick. I mean, there's a lot of high hopes and expectations, and he's just not living up to them. I mean,
he probably will. He's just not there. He was good at BYU, and he's got some ability. He just doesn't know how to put it all together, is my thoughts. So
yeah. Do you think it's almost Sam Darnold 2.0? I mean, because to me, it feels like the Jets went from Darnold, who was there for what, 2-3 years? It was a pretty short amount of time.
Yeah.
They moved on from him. Now Wilson's been there for what, 2-3 years, whatever it's been. And it feels like they're going to move on from him. It just, to me, I don't pity that fan base because it's a Giants fan. We're not in any better shape, but it does bring me a little bit of happiness knowing that they can't seem to get anything right on their side of the city either.
Oh, I know. It's just crazy because their defense is a top 5 defense, and all you got to do is play a half decent quarterback, and you're going to be, you're going to be 6-4, 7-3. But their quarterback just sucks so bad, and that's why they're in the spot that they're in. So it's just really crazy because their defense is a top-notch defense.
Yeah, you're right. I thought I was sticking up for the guy a little bit. I really thought he would be playing better at this point in the season, especially the weapons that are around him, because I really thought he could at least rise to the level of game manager. Because like you said, when you got a stellar defense like the Jets do, you're not going to give up a lot of points. They've been competitive on the defensive side of the ball. So all Wilson has to do is be that quote unquote game manager, limit your turnovers, keep your team in a position where you're moving the ball downfield, stay in field goal range, create opportunities. And he's not doing that. He's not protecting the ball. It looks like he's not making the right reads. He's not doing a whole lot right. So
it just seems like he gets rushed and he gets busy and he, takes a crap and does something stupid. That's what it seems like to me. He just doesn't know how to handle pressure. And that's just me looking at him. But yeah. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, as they say.
It is. I eventually want to move over to college, but there's a whole lot of NFL we could spend probably multiple shows talking. Before we move on, didn't know if you have any thoughts on Eagles Cowboys, but I wanted to get your thoughts on what we saw in the Texans Bucks game, because I feel like I fleeced my buddy Cameron on a trade that went down a couple of weeks ago in our league. I was really looking for, believe it or not, some tight end help. So I packaged a deal and got Sam Laporta, who had a bye this past week, but he did catch a touchdown the week before. So I was pleasantly surprised with what happened, because I really fulfilled my need. I ended up getting CJ Stroud in the deal as well, who at the time I just envisioned maybe being my backup. But lo and behold, Stafford goes down, and I insert Stroud into the lineup this week, and turned out to be a pretty good decision. I was really happy to see the numbers he put up, even though he did cost me my my lock of the week and my pick of the Bucks. He helped me out on the fantasy game. So curious what you see with this guy. He's only got a few games under his belt. We saw maybe a similar comparison. I don't know. He probably looks better, in my opinion, than a guy like Brock Purdy that we saw last year, who won a bunch of games in a row, looked like he could do no wrong. But Stroud just looks like he looks to me like a very mature player, given how young he is and how little experience he has. I don't know. It's been a while since I looked at the Texans depth chart, but I don't think he's got a ton to work with out there. And just the way he's playing right now, setting the records he did this past week, he looks like the real deal early on. And, I don't want to anoint the guy, next Super Bowl MVP just yet, but boy, do the Texans look like they might have hit on something big by picking him. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, he was a hell of a player. I mean, you look at him, he played 2.5 years or 2 years at Ohio State, and he's just got the body. It was between him and Bryce Young as who was going to be number 1 pick and number 2 pick. And Bryce Young, I want to say, is like 5'9", and I want to say CJ Stroud is about 6'2". So there's the ultimate factor. And just watching him at Ohio State and watching him the first couple weeks of the season, he's the real deal. Like you were saying, he's got arm strength. I want to say that he threw about 175 passes without throwing an interception, and he almost tied the NFL record as a rookie from out throwing an interception, starting a career. So he's the real deal. And another crazy stat that I saw is I think he has 14 touchdowns, and Kenny Pickett only has 13 in his whole career. And Kenny Pickett's been in the league a year and a half, and Stroud's only been in the league 8 games. So
yeah, that
it's a really
puts
crazy stat. Yeah. So he's a hell of a player, and the Texans did a great job. And like you were saying, they don't really have anybody big on their offense. I mean, they have Tank Dell, who's a fellow rookie. He was probably a 5th rounder, 4th rounder, came out of nowhere, and he's blowing up. And that's like his favorite dude is Tank Dell. So it's just very interesting to see. And they're all doing this as a rookie head coach. You know, the guy they got from the Niners, DeMeco Ryans. So it's very interesting how this is all happening. They're a fun team to watch, man. I don't know if you're able to watch that last 3 minutes of the game. Baker Mayfield ran them down, and then they took the lead. And then C.J. Stroud came right back and took the lead back. And also, the funny that their kicker got injured, so they had a backup running back kick a field goal. Did you see that?
I did see that, and he actually made it. Right? I think I saw the.
He actually made it from about 39 yards. Something along the way or something. Yeah, It was crazy. And they were going for 2, and the reason why it was 39-37 is because they scored that touchdown. And they took a knee for a 2-pointer because they didn't have a field goal kicker. So, I mean, it's just really interesting how that whole game turned out. And I think the Texans are a real deal. They just probably need another stud or 2 on offense. And they also had another top 3 pick in Will Anderson, Alabama, on the defensive side. So they got a young team to build upon. And I think they're going to be around for a while.
Yeah, I think so too. A couple things I couldn't remember who their rookie head coach was.
DeMeco Ryans.
I knew it wasn't. Was it Bill O'Brien last year? Did he just get the axe?
No, he's been gone for a while. Last year was Lovie Smith, remember?
Oh, yeah. Gosh, man. They were just bringing back that retread. God bless Lovie.
Yeah, and then DeMeco Ryans played linebacker. He played linebacker for the Texans, and then he went to San Francisco to be a coach, and then now he's back as the head coach. So he was a good player. Really good linebacker, DeMeco Ryans.
What do you think about we're talking a lot about Stroud right now. I'm curious the other side of the equation, a guy who's just not living up to expectations. And granted, it is early. I'm not going to anoint Stroud, and on the same token, I'm not going to crucify this guy. But Bryce Young and the Panthers, he looks like he definitely needs some more development, more time. He's everything I think so far that Stroud has not been. I watched some of their games. His reads look off. He made some poor decisions. I saw him get picked off. He threw a pick 6 this past weekend.
He threw 2 of them.
Yeah, 2 of them. They looked bad. They looked bad, and I just think he's somebody that probably needs some more work. I'm curious your thoughts if he maybe gets it right. I really thought that the Panthers. I didn't think they were going to be great this year. I think we all thought the NFC South was kind of up for grabs this year coming into the season. But we know they added Miles Sanders. You know, he's a capable veteran back who I thought would have some success to complement Young, and give him an option, give him a check down option when he's in trouble. You know, Sanders can catch some passes. And you look at a guy like Adam Thielen, he had a few weeks in a row this year where he was just on fire. What happened to him? I mean, how do you have a guy like that who's catching touchdowns consistently and you just end up with the record that the Panthers have? I don't really get it, and I don't know where Young goes from here.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was between Young and Stroud, and Young went number 1 and Stroud went number 2. So it's just really interesting that you were bringing him up because he won the Heisman Trophy at Alabama a couple years ago. And the reason why he won the trophy is because Alabama, as we always know, surrounds Alabama with talent. And there's a reason why the Panthers were number 1 team or number 1 overall pick last year. They had a crap year, and all they really improved on was bringing Adam Thielen, bringing Miles Sanders, and draft Bryce Young. Their offensive line was still suspect. So I watched his game on the red zone, and the 2 pick 6s, he looked lost because he didn't have a lot of time. I think he needs a lot of more development, and I just don't think that he was ready. He should have probably stayed 1 more year at Alabama. But what happened was, like I said, he won the Heisman, and people got in his ear, and they said, you can go number 1 overall and get all this money. But end of the day, size is size. And I don't mean to keep going back to that, but like I said, I want to say he's like 5'9", 5'10", as a freaking quarterback. I mean, give me a break. So maybe he's going to have a great year, but still, I don't see it, man. I would have either stayed 1 more year, maybe got some more size or something, but I just don't see it in him. And the year that he won the Heisman, he had a hell of a year. But again, like I said, Alabama had talent that year, and that's what he surrounded himself by. Alabama is a perennial top 10 team every single year. They recruit well. They have good skilled players, good offensive line. And I think that's why he won the Heisman. So I think he should have stayed. And maybe, maybe if they keep losing, they're 1-7. I would almost want to sit him and let him, progress on the sidelines. Maybe let him stand by Frank Reich. And Frank Reich's a hell of a coach. I think he's a great coach. He got a raw deal in Indianapolis last year. So maybe sit him and let him learn from Reich. Let him learn from his coaches and go from there. So I don't think he's ready.
I don't know. I don't think I agree, because to me, when the season's already a wash, I think the best experience you can get is being out there on the field. It's almost like, again, I think about the business world, take sports out of the equation. Whether if you're a student in school and you're getting ready to go to college or something, some of the best things you can do is on the job training. You actually be able to apply your skills into the real world. You're going to make mistakes. There's going to be bumps in the road, but get through that initial phase. And then, when it comes time for next year, hopefully he'll be settled in. He'll have learned some things and he'll have more success. So all the kinks will be ironed out. I don't know. Yeah, you might get some things by sitting on the sidelines, maybe reviewing film and tape. But for me, especially when the season, like I said, is already a wash, I would keep the guy out there and let him just run through it. The best experience, I think, is what you're going to get being out there on the field, not on the sidelines. But,
no, that makes sense. It does make sense. And I can agree with you there. It's just, what if he's going to get hurt and what if he gets a career-ending injury? I mean, everybody says what if. And I agree with you 100%. Trial and error, get out there, live and learn, all those techniques, all those little sayings. But I just think if he takes a step back from being the number 1 overall pick and maybe sitting on the sidelines and just learning, maybe he can talk with coaches and say, okay, this play does this play does that. And like I said, I'm a big proponent of what you said. I just think with this kid being so young and being so undersized, I just think that he can maybe be able to learn more being on the sidelines and seeing how he would fit into that play and saying, okay, I can do this as my skill set or as this, as that. Like I said, it's to each his own. Like you were saying, it's just, like I said, we're a show talking about our opinions. And I just think he'd steer better on the sidelines, but that's here nor there. So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there's arguments to be made for both, definitely, you could get a second perspective, take yourself out of the equation, see things from a different point of view if he's not actually in the game playing it. But I don't know, if it was me, I think I'd want him in there. But a lot of NFL action. We covered a ton, and there's still more we could cover, but we went pretty long. We got a couple other segments we got to get to. Let's switch gears for a quick second and get into some college football. And it's tough.
Boy. I knew this was coming.
Yeah, well, we have to address the elephant in the room. I'm sorry to do it. Let's do it like a Band-Aid. We'll rip it off, and then we'll move on. What happened to your boys this weekend?
So it goes how I've been saying all year. We play balls to the wall no matter what, and we kept shooting ourselves in the foot. I mean, we would drive the ball and then throw an interception. We would drive the ball, then throw in the interception. And I know I mentioned this last week. I said that playing at Clemson is not the same as playing at Clemson at night, but it's still playing at Clemson. It's still playing on the road. And I don't know if you know this, Greg, but their name of their stadium is Death Valley. So, you see the crowd was into it 100%. The crowd was sold out to the brim. I mean, there's no excuses, but the crowd definitely our composure. So we just kept shooting ourselves in the foot. Our defense got 4 straight stops in the fourth quarter. We kept getting the ball back, but we just couldn't get any traction. And end of the day, 7-3. Yes, it's a great record for anybody else, but Notre Dame, we play for championships. We play for playoffs. We don't play for bowl games, Dan O'Brien, bowl game university. We play for college football playoff. We play for New Year's 6. So end of the day, we're going to make a bowl because bowl eligible is 6 wins. And it's just frustrating because this season could have been so much more. I mean, we I don't want to repeat myself, but that first game, Ohio State, we were 10 seconds away from winning. Louisville easily could have beaten Louisville. And then, Clemson easily could have beaten Clemson. We could have been 10-0, number one in the nation. But we sit here at 7-3, and we'll see what happens. We still got a young team. We're going to lose our quarterback next year, but we got a good recruiting class coming in. And I like our coach, and I like his attitude, and I like what he does. So I guess moral of the story is 7-3, yes, but could have been so much better, yes. But hey, it's the life of an Irish fan. We're going to still tag it, and we're going to still drink beers, so we're good.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride, huh? All those self-inflicted wounds. I think you're right.
All right. Always a bridesmaid, not a bride. I see what you did there, buddy boy.
Yeah,
All right.
So yeah, hey, I won't pour any more salt in the wound. I know it sucks, and I know it's hard for you to talk about. I get it. You're as passionate of an Irish fan as I know. You bleed, your blood runs deep when it comes to the Irish and the Yanks. So I know.
I mean, shit, we were texting the whole game too. Remember?
Yep, we absolutely were. So I appreciate you giving your thoughts. I don't have any more to add, really. I mean, you sum it up better than I could. Definitely, I think got to be a disappointing year, but there is always next year, and I'm curious now. We talked about it last few weeks. There's just been no movement in that top four. Obviously, we talked about the new playoff format that's coming next year, but this year's the last year of the top four, and again, there's just been no movement there. When it comes to the rankings, I'm starting to pay attention now with just a couple of weeks left in the season. We got 5 teams sitting at 9-0. Washington looks like the odd man out right now. If things stay the way that they are, where they may potentially just miss out. I don't know. Again, barring some kind of major loss, and there's a big game this coming week, Penn State, Michigan. I think there'll be a lot of eyes on that game. But barring some kind of loss from the top four, I don't know how you can put Washington ahead of any of them and maybe disrupt what looks like are going to be the potential matchups come playoff time. What do you think? You think Washington is deserving of being in the mix somehow, or no?
So don't forget that Ohio State plays Michigan, and also Georgia will be playing Alabama in the SEC championship game. So
I mean, hold on, I kind of want to stop you there because I'm curious about this. Like, don't you think there's nothing they can do? Strength of schedule, from what I've always heard, used to matter. I think it still does matter. So one of those teams is going to lose, but don't you think that regardless of who loses that game, it's still looked at as barely a loss? Because the reason why I say that is because I look at a team right now, number 9, Penn State's sitting at number 9. They're 8-1, and their only loss came to Ohio State, who is sitting at number 3 in the rankings. So when I look at Penn State, I'm thinking, they haven't looked amazing every week, but I'm looking at them holistically and I'm thinking, what have they done wrong? I mean, they have a 1 in the loss column, but man, it was to a team who's ranked 3rd in the nation right now. So when, potentially Michigan or Ohio State lose, is it really a loss? Or, I mean, because that's not something they can control, the schedule,
Well, it depends on how they lose. So let's say that game is 31-30. That's gonna go a long way in the college football playoff rankings. But if it's a blowout, then it's a blowout loss. And don't forget that they play the last game of the year, and then they still have a Big Ten championship game. So there's potential for one of those teams to go on and win and then lose in the Big Ten championship game. So there's potential for Washington if they take care of business, because they're going to be in a Pac-12 championship game as well. So they take care of business and they win out, they're going to be fine, because for the end of the day, if you're a top 5 team and you're undefeated, you're not going to miss out on one of the 4 playoffs. I mean, we saw that last year with TCU. TCU came, they were kind of on the outside looking in, but what they did is they did what they had to do, and they won the Big 12 championship, and they made it in at the number 4 seed or number 3 seed because they were undefeated. So, long story short, you just got to win out. And I think Ohio State right now, Ohio State is 1A, and I think Georgia's 1B. And I would say Alabama is number 3, and I would say Florida State's number 4. And the reason why the reason why I say that is Alabama, they had a tough loss against Texas at home. And ever since the Texas loss, I don't know if you saw Jalen Milroe, who their quarterback is. He had 150 yards rushing last week for 3 touchdowns against LSU. So I would put Alabama 3, maybe 4, and then in between Florida State, Alabama. I would say those would be 3A, 3B. So it's very interesting stuff, but we'll see.
So Michigan's not in your top 5?
No, sir.
Wow.
No, they're in my top 5. They're in my top 5. I would go Ohio State, Georgia, Florida State, Alabama, Michigan.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Florida State 3A, Alabama 3B, and then Michigan. Because just look at the teams that Alabama's played, and they're on the way. Their quarterback, they finally figured out their quarterback situation, and their defense is always their defense. But their quarterback situation, Jalen Milroe, he's a beast, and he's turned it on when he needs to turn it on. So that's just my honest opinion. I mean, I hate Alabama like everybody else does, but just the facts speak for themselves, and that's just my thoughts. But
it's hard to disagree with any of that. You've made some good points. It's going to get interesting, like you said. I think you have to win out. Georgia's going to have a tough test this week. They're playing number 10 Mississippi, not a pushover by any means. And then you look at Washington, who I was talking about. They've got a tough test with number 13 Utah. So that game, those 2 games will mean a lot. And then of course, you know, the game kicking off at noon, Michigan, Penn State, there's going to be a lot of eyes on that. So a couple good games coming down the stretch, and a lot can happen. Should be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very interesting, but we'll see what happens. I mean, Washington's home, and Michael Penix Jr., he's playing his butt off. So I think Washington takes care of business, and we'll go from there. I mean, Georgia's home too against Ole Miss. So it's going to be a lot of football to play. We'll just see what happens. That's just my thoughts. But Alabama's coming like a missile.
You think so? You think so?
I do, man. I do. They figured out their team. They figured out their offense, and their defense has been really good all year. But their quarterback has been the problem. And they figured out their quarterback. So,
how much of that do you think Saban's responsible for? You think
100% of his? He's pissed. 100% is him. If I had to say, he's been in everybody's.
I think you're right.
Everybody's face. He's been in everybody's face, and that's all Saban. If I had to put my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that guy is just he's not been happy the last at least the start of the season, I guess you could say, when he was, he's just been a powerhouse. He's done so much for that program, but it's been Georgia's world the last couple of years, and there's a number of teams that he's staring up at in the rankings, and I can't imagine that's sitting well with him. But you might be right. I mean, they're climbing in the rankings. They're back in the mix. So they got a Kentucky team that I think they'll probably win pretty handily, and we'll see what that does to their rankings if they move up at all. But it's gonna be interesting. We went pretty long. Ton of football conversation. We actually already let out with some baseball. So I think we got to take a quick break. We got our beer segment coming up, and then maybe some closing thoughts.
Yeah, buddy. Let's hit it.
We'll be back soon.
from my past, but smile and a couple beautiful girls tell me goodbye. Trucks break down, dogs run off, politicians lie, been fired by the boss. It takes one hand to count the things I can count on. No, there ain't much man that ain't ever let me down. Long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart. Like diamond rings and football teams have torn this boy apart. Like a neon dream, it just don't know me. The bars in this guitar. And long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart. She
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'm
back to the great
thirsty.
song. Oh yeah, everybody's
I'm
thirsty.
Yeah. The producer finally got it right this week. He got the right
It
song.
happens. It happens.
He's
It
back.
happens.
Yep,
It's
yep,
all right.
yep. So here it is, our weekly segment, Beers with Bros, live beer ratings and taste testings. Dan, you got to keep me honest. Did you go first last week?
Yes, I did. Because remember, you
You
didn't
did.
like the Marzen, remember?
That's right. That's right. So
Yes, sir.
I'll go first this time. And
See what you got,
I
home
think
dog.
you know by now, most of my beers have been picked, selected pretty much with a purpose. I've done some seasonal beers, some Oktoberfest last month. I did the red stride
Yep.
for you, the Irish beer.
Yep.
So most of them have been with a purpose. This one, on the other hand, is maybe has no purpose whatsoever, and I'll tell you why.
Oh
I
boy.
picked it. If you can see the can, it's from Crooked Run Fermentation. You can see the can.
Yeah, that's
And it's
interesting.
a Coast Pilsner. That is really
Interesting.
why I picked it, because it's a Pilsner, and I usually
Yeah.
like Pilsners. But if you look at this can, there's not a whole lot else on it. I've never heard of Crooked Run.
Okay.
The
Where are
art
they
is
from?
kind of funky on the can. I can't even easily tell. It is on the side of the can, so it's 5%. It's not overly strong. It does say it's brewed and canned by Crooked Run Fermentation in Sterling, Virginia. So that's where they're
What?
located. And it says New Zealand Pilsner style lager with Motueka and Wataku hops. Have you ever heard
Holy
of that?
I've heard of Matuka.
Yeah, Motueka. I don't know how you pronounce this. It's on the side of the can. If anybody wants to look it up, we'll post these on our website. But
Yeah.
certain amount of hops. It is a lager, 5%. But I picked this because I've never seen it before, and there's not a whole lot on the can itself. So all my
Yeah,
other
interesting.
beers that have had a purpose so far, this one really, you could say, does not. So
I
I
gotcha.
have no idea what to expect with this one whatsoever. Cannot believe I'm still bringing out this fugly cup here, but
Gotta keep it real, man.
yeah, we're keeping it real. We're Giants fans, even when it's not cool and fun to be a Giants fan. So
Well,
see if I can
we
get a
talked
pour
about
with
maybe
this
getting some
guy.
glasses for us. Maybe we'll have to do some phone calls.
Yeah, we
Small
do need to
OTS
get it on.
glasses. We'll make it
Mhm.
work. All right, let's see. What kind of color are we looking at?
It's very, very gold.
Okay. I can see Pilsner. Yep. All right. Look at your pouring skills, dude. I love it.
Yeah, I spilled a little bit off the can, but that's a
That's
pretty
all right.
good pour.
Yeah. How's it
And
smell?
really, really golden color. Let me hold that up.
Oh, yeah. I see it. Yep. Okay. How's it smell?
Hoppy.
Ooh, hoppy.
Yeah.
All right now.
It's got an aroma.
I like
Even
it.
more than probably last week.
Oh,
Let's see.
All
Down
right,
the
let's
hatch.
do it. Down the hatch, sir.
Well,
Yeah, what are we thinking?
I mean, it tastes like a Pilsner. It is a little hoppy. I don't know what those hops were. I'll have to look that up to see.
Those are very the M word is a very hoppy one. Montauk is a very hoppy hop, like very
Is it?
flavorful. Yes.
I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. It's Madueka? Here, see if you can look this up. We'll do this live here.
All right, hold
It's
on. M.
MOTUEKA. Ueka.
There it is.
Motueka? I have no idea.
It's a New Zealand hop.
So it's local to New Zealand.
Punctuation. Here we go. So it's Mau Tuaka.
Motueka. Okay. That's what
MOWTOOAYKUH. So Mau Tuaka.
Do they describe like what it's supposed to do for the flavor in a beer or no?
It's a town in South Island, New Zealand. And
Okay.
fresh citrus, mojito lime character, lively lemon, lime tunes with background hints of tropical fruit. You taste that?
A little bit, yeah. It's
Okay.
it's definitely, I mean, I hate to state the obvious because it's in it, but it is a little hoppy, which is not always my favorite. I'm trying to let it grow on me a little bit. Let me get one more and then I'll give it a rating.
All right. I got a very interesting one for me. I'm very excited about it.
It's not horrible at all. But I just don't know that I get it again. I knew I was making a gamble with this one because of the can. I'd never heard of it before, but I'm
Yep.
glad I did. I don't regret the pick at all. I just wish I liked it a little more than I do. These are honest reviews. You know, these
Yeah,
are
they
honest,
are. Yeah.
honest reviews. And we're now, and you and I, reason why we're doing this segment, for those maybe just listening, you know, we're avid beer drinkers. We
Oh,
are
yeah.
what we are.
Oh, yeah.
When we're watching sports, we usually got an ice cold drink, an ice cold bruiser, as we like to call it, in front of us.
ICB.
Maybe an occasional, mixed drink during
yeah.
the week or something for a cocktail.
Yeah.
But these are honest reviews, and we have some pretty sophisticated palates. You and I both have had our fair share of beers, and not just the mainstream beers you find in this country. We're clearly going
Oh, yeah.
off the board here, so that's the purpose of this. So my honest rating of this Crooked Rum Coast Pilsner, I got to go 7.5.
Woo!
7.5.
That's
Yeah,
rough.
it's a little low. I just I don't love it. It doesn't wow me. The flavor, while not horrible, it's just not it's not amazing. It's not something I would necessarily get again. So
Okay.
7.5.
Okay. Okay.
Floor
So
is
this
yours,
beer-
my man.
This beer is going to be very similar to the beer that I had last week. It's a double IPA, and it's a beer. It's called Grim Light Year, and here's a pretty cool cup or can. You can kind of see it's kind of
Yep.
got really cool flavors. It's called Grim, and it's Grim by Brooklyn, New York. So it's a brewery in Brooklyn, New York.
All right.
GRIMM, and it's got Galaxy, Mosaic, Columbus, and Citra hops. So the Mosaic is what I've had, not the one that you had. So
Okay.
very excited for it because, like I said, I had a double IPA last week and I really enjoyed it.
What's the ABV on this one?
8% again, like last week.
Wow. Okay.
So you can see this pour. Similar color as last week too. You can kind of see that cloudy flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, look at this pour. Boom, baby, boom. Oh yeah. So you can kind of see the color. It's blondish, kind of hazy, kind of cloudy. So taking a smell, it smells very similar to last week's beer. So what I mean by that is it's very citrusy and very hoppy. Oh wow. That's good. That's
Yeah.
really good. I mean, you wouldn't like it, but it's really good. And the reason why I say that, no disrespect, is it's very, very hoppy, but it's very citrusy as well. And
I like the citrus. That's what I was going to ask. If you taste
Okay.
both of them, you taste both
Very-
the citrus and the hops. Okay.
yes, citrus and hops, and you can definitely tell it's an 8%er. You can definitely tell it's a double IPA. So I would definitely order that again. I'd go with an 8.1. It's still very delicious.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really loving these beers I'm getting, dude. It's very, very awesome.
8.1. I like it.
I mean, we can go down the rankings. I haven't had a beer that I hadn't liked yet. I mean, the first 2 weeks were Stone Cold Steve Austin, so that doesn't really count. But I mean, he's still our boy. And then the other beers, I think I haven't gone lower than a 7.7, maybe something like that. So I've liked the beers,
You've been generous with your ratings. Yes, you have.
which I like them. I mean, I like me some
Yeah.
beers.
Yep. If
So-
they're good, they're good. Like I said, these are honest.
Yeah.
And if you're nailing them, you're hitting some winners, which is awesome. I think I'm still what is this? This is our 7th show. We did it from the beginning.
Yep.
I think I'm probably 5 yays, 2 nays,
Yep.
maybe
Out
at
of
worst 4 and
the
3. I think
Italian
I'm only
beer and then the
2.
Marzen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. So, cheers.
Cheers, brother. Good stuff.
Bang.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Let's
Love
keep the truck running, dude.
Yeah.
wanna hit?
So we're we went long. We touched on a lot. I think we've got more football in us. We got to make our picks. We know that. Before we do that, any NBA, NHL that you want to touch, something on your mind, or you want to dive into picks?
I mean, I'll touch a little bit of NBA. So far,
Go
just
for
looking at the standings real quick, you can see the Eastern, Boston and the Sixers so far are 5-1, and we knew that about the Celtics. Like I said a couple weeks ago, they're a veteran team. They have a really good team, and it's very interesting with the Sixers because they just traded James Harden a week and a half ago. So it looks like they needed James Harden out of there. He went to the Clippers, and they're 5-1. They still got Joel Embiid, and they still got a really good team. And looking at the Western Conference, I mean, it's a 3-team race right now. I mean, it's super early, but the Nuggets are 7-1, Mavericks are 6-1, and the Warriors are 6-2. And the Nuggets, as we know, are back-to-back or won the championship last year. Mavericks still have Luka Doncic, and the Warriors still have the Splash Brothers, Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry and Draymond Green. So it's going well, and my surprise picks are both 4-3. I just want to keep mentioning that every show. The Magic and the Thunder, they're both 4-3. So we still looking lovely. We're not, defeated or towards the bottom of the conference. So they'll still be pushing when I mention basketball. We're just going to be talking about my 2 teams. I'm not going to forget about them. But it's been a good year. I watched a little bit of that weird ass tournament we talked about last week, the in-season tournament. That shit was funky. I don't know if you saw any on TV, but that freaking stuff we were talking about the courts. Jeez Louise, You needed freaking 3D glasses on that crap,
Yeah, I saw a little bit of the Bulls. They had the all red court, and then I saw the Bucks, and I think they played the Knicks, and the Bucks court was actually kind of bland. It just theirs looked kind of. I think they all look lame because I just don't think they need to do it. I think they're trying too hard. It's hard to look at how bright some of the courts are and whatnot. But just the concept, I've heard a lot of other talking heads, guys that do shows like ours. It seems the general consensus is people are wondering what the purpose is, why they're doing this. And
like we were talking about, it's funky.
Yeah, it really is funky. And I think it was maybe it was Lugau or somebody else on the Fan. He brought up a great point. I completely agree. They're calling it an in-season tournament. You're 5 games into the season. How is it an in-season tournament? It's the start of the season. To me, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
None.
I don't get it. It feels very, very forced. On top of it just being confusing and probably unnecessary. I'm really curious to see how we need to get a player from any team on the show one day. I'm curious what they feel about it. What could possibly be the message that the coaching staff, the organization says to the players? Hey guys, just want to let you know that in addition to playing 82 games and trying to, make the postseason and make the playoffs and get a championship. By the way, we're also going to do this in-season tournament. Hey, coach, what does that mean? Well, I'm not really sure. We're going to start it around the 4th game of the season, and it's going to be a tournament within the season, and there's going to be a little bit more on the line, but not really. It doesn't really matter for anything. We're still playing to make the postseason. What's that message? If I was a player, I can't say I'd be interested. I'd probably just tune it out and be like, hey, I'm just going to go do my job. I'm curious if reporters are even asking players about this because I don't know what my answer would be as a player. To me, it's just all really confusing.
Very confusing. And, not to kill the subject, I just wanted to bring up we got college basketball that just started too. Usually we're going to start talking about that March Madness, but I wanted to touch on a couple of things. We have my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. As everybody knows, I'm an Irish lover, but we got my basketball team. We had a head coach debut last night from Penn State, and then we also had a true freshman, Barton, scored 29 points against Niagara. We got the win. And also James Madison, they're undefeated in football. They are a top 25 team in football. They're a D1 school, but play in a very small conference. their basketball team upset Michigan State, number 4 in the nation last night for James Madison.
Wow.
So really cool stuff coming out of James Madison. Their football team is
Something,
on point.
something's in the water over in James Madison,
Yeah.
huh?
So their
Wow.
football team is in the top 25 rankings, and they just upset their number 4 Michigan State Spartans. So
I wrote it down. We'll keep an eye
yeah.
on them once the tournament comes in.
Yeah, so it's very, very interesting. I mean, only first game of the year, but I was, we're a sports show, so I was watching that last night, and I figured I would mention it. So,
Yeah.
and
No,
and
absolutely.
then yeah.
Go
One
for
more
it.
thing I wanted to talk to. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. We were talking about hockey, and we didn't really talk about hockey, but the one interesting stat that I saw is that Marc-Andre Fleury is still playing, and he's playing for the Minnesota Wild. I thought that was a really interesting stat. He played for the Penguins, and then he went to the Golden Knights, and now he's with the Wild. Very interesting that he's still in the league. I just thought that was very interesting, seeing his name on the goalies for tonight. So
yeah, he's still around. They call him
Yep.
the Flower, and he's had a
Yep.
hell of a career. He was, if I'm not mistaken, he was first overall pick, which you never see that with goalies,
Oh, yeah.
especially nowadays. It's pretty rare. But I think I want to say it was 03. I think he was first overall pick.
I want to say 03 as well. Yes.
Yeah, something like that. And he's had a hell of a career, 20 years. You're right. He has bounced around. People know him from his time with the Penguins. And he's still kicking with the Wild.
Minnesota.
I have a feeling this will probably be his last year, just because you can tell when a guy moves around, it's hard for him to find a place. And as a player, I think you want to continue to compete, but it's got to be hard when you're bouncing around. It's hard to find that home, and you at a certain point, I think a lot of guys recognize they don't want to do more damage to their legacy by being known as this journeyman, because that's not what Fleury's been. He has been as consistent as they come for the better part of 15, 20 years. And I'll be honest, being as spoiled as I was, a Devils fan, got to see Brodeur from the beginning of his career, basically when I started watching and following the Devils right around the time he entered the league. In fact, I predated him. My very first jersey was, believe it or not, a Chris Terreri jersey. I think I still have it in the
That's
attic in a
awesome.
box somewhere.
That's
my very
awesome.
first jersey, and then Brodeur pretty much took over right after that, around circa 91, 92 probably. But I got to see Brodeur put up all the records he did, including the wins record. And you mentioned Fleury. You know a lot of stats. I know a lot of stats. I would say you probably know more current stats than I do. I know a lot of historical stats, especially with hockey. And when I looked at Fleury, I saw the amount of wins that he was piling up, and I thought to myself, ooh, if he keeps playing, if he really wanted it, and if he found his way onto a good team, he could potentially challenge Brodeur for that wins record. It would be tough.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he's closing in on Patrick Waugh for number 2 overall, which would really, really say something, because I never thought Brodeur would beat Waugh's wins record. I think it was 551 or something like that. And of course, Brodeur, he smashed that. He ended up with 692, I think. And I wanted him to go after 700, because he would have, to me, that would have been even more impressive. Nobody that had ever gotten 600 and Brodeur going above 7 would have been something. And he's another guy, I would have never thought that he would don a jersey other than the Devils, but he played, I think, 7 games with the Blues.
Yeah,
thinking that he
I remember that.
hang on. And that was a part of me died inside that day, seeing him put on that blue sweater for the very first time. And I'm, as much as I love the guy, I was kind of glad it didn't work out in St. Louis. And I think he only played 7 games before he hung it up. And that's, again, more the reason why I think Fleury will eventually probably hang it up after the season, because I think it's a pride thing. He's had a hell of a career, a ton of records. I think he's third. If he's not third yet, he's got to be third, because I know he's coming close to Patrick Waugh. I think he probably just passed Luongo. A couple of those other guys like Ed Belfour's up there. But yeah, I mean, you nailed it, Fleury.
Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting.
38 years old. Yeah, he's still hanging around.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, do we want to touch anything else in hockey? Or I noticed one thing I did want to mention is friend of the show, old Chris Dolan. We may be seeing him next week, but he works for the Panthers. We'll be exposing on that. But I know the Bruins are still the best record in the league. And I just think it's funny that they're going to give the best record in the league, and the Fighting Dolinators will come up there and beat them in the first round again. So, yeah, we'll see what happens to the Bruins again.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, they've surprised me so far this season.
Talking new captain and everything.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of turnover, but they're rolling just like they really didn't miss a beat. So far this season, I mean, there's a couple surprises, but the usual suspects are still out. Vegas Vegas
looks really
teams.
good. Yeah,
the Abs are good. Thankfully, my Devils are good. We've
my
got
look all right.
We've got a hill to climb. The Devils lost Jack Hughes 2 games ago, and he's going to be gone for probably about a month, it looks like. He took a nasty fall into the boards. They haven't said if it's a dislocated shoulder yet. Could just be some kind of deep bruise, but he's quote-unquote week to week, which the NFL has one of the worst policies when it comes to injury reporting. It's as vague as it gets.
The NHL,
It's frustrating for fans and probably even people in the inner circles because there's just no updates or releases. But it looks like he'll be out. And the Devils are still missing Nico Hischier too. So they've got their arguably 2 best players. Their 2 best centers are out right now, and that's a tough void to fill down the middle. Guys that win faceoffs, kill penalties, and guy like Jack who literally just does it all. So. Devils got a tough mountain to climb for the next month or so, but they're still in the mix. The Rangers look good on the back of Shesterkin. Actually, another goalie who, believe it or not, is still around, Jonathan Quick.
I noticed that today too. Yeah, he's on the Rangers.
Good start with the Rangers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Another guy just like Fleury, who's up there in age but found a home. Thought he was going to be the backup. He still is the backup. He's not overtaking Shesterkin, but that's a large part of the reason why the Rangers are having the success they are this year is because they've got 2 goalies that they can count on. But you're right. Your Isles are up there. You guys are competitive. You're right there in the mix, which on the back of your goalie too. Sorokin has just, he's played really well so far this season. And some of the other usual suspects, the Avalanche are up there. 2 surprising teams, I think. I didn't quite expect the Canucks to be as good as they are this season, but
me neither. They're a young team.
Elias Pettersson is just kicking ass out there in Vancouver. I think he's tied with Jack for the league lead in points, and of course he's going to pass him because Jack is hurt. But he's having a heck of a season so far. And the Oilers, man, they don't look right. It's tough out there. I know McDavid missed a couple games, but I did just see that the Oilers waived their goalie Jack Campbell, and they owe him a lot of money still. I think they're on the hook for $5 million or so, and they're only going to save about $1 million by cutting him. So I don't know what they're gaining out there. Maybe it's just making a move to make a move. But as much talent as they have, the last couple of years, the Hart Trophy, Art Ross Trophy, whether it's McDavid and Draisaitl, guys who were 1 and 2 in points for so many years, and Oilers just can't put it together. So I would not want to be an Oiler fan right now. It's rough.
Yeah, we talked about that. Remember, we were talking, I think, a couple episodes ago when we talked about NHL. We were saying, how long are they going to stay together? Because it's, put up or shut up. And, I mean, you get 2 of the best players in the league, and they're not winning anything. So something's got to happen,
Yeah, 100%.
It's going to be interesting. And, all right, I think you're going to a live game this week. Aren't you going to see the Blackhawks and the Lightning on Saturday?
It's going to be the Canes, actually.
Okay, that'll be fun.
On Saturday. Yep, it's going to be a good matchup. I will be there at Amalie Arena to see the Bolts, and the Bolts have had 2 interesting games. We are doing this show live. There's some games going on.
Yeah,
I know that yesterday the Bolts got out to, I believe it was a 4-0 lead. This was yesterday. They went out to a 4-0 lead against the Leafs. The Leafs ended up storming back, to their credit, and Austin Matthews is having a heck of a season. He already has 3 hat tricks on the year.
We talked about that. Remember, we talked about the first 2 games. He had 2 hat tricks. We talked about that. Yeah,
and
so
now he's got
crazy.
3.
Yep.
Yeah, and the Leafs ended up coming back and winning that game yesterday, 6-5. The Lightning just could not hold on to a lead. They made it to 3-on-3 overtime, and it was over. And within a minute or so, Toronto ended up scoring. The Lightning are now 0-7 their last 7 games in 3-on-3 overtime. I don't know what it is about them.
Stat, yeah.
They are struggling in
Vasilevsky,
overtime.
that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like they're not having trouble scoring goals. And again, tonight. They played the
5-3.
Canadians back to back. They stormed out of the gate with 4 goals in the first period, which is impressive.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was eager to see if they could hold on to the win, and it looks like thankfully they did. But you're right. I mean, they are missing their goaltender in a bad way. I think he's scheduled to come back in sometime mid-December. But to their credit, the Lightning are not giving up by any means. If anything, I would say they're overachieving a bit right now. They're 6-3-4. So we'll see if those 4 overtime losses mean anything come the end of the year. But they're sitting right now second in the Atlantic. You know, they're behind Boston, who's a juggernaut. You know, they're right there in the mix with Detroit. Detroit's another team who's surprising me.
Well, it's just a matter of time with Detroit with all those draft picks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. They were in the middle of a rebuild. I thought it was going to still take them a little while, but they're starting to click, and maybe their young team has found a groove. So it's been interesting. It's been a good season so far, and I will be there on Saturday to catch a game live. So I'll have some thoughts for our show next week.
You got your seats yet, or are you going to get them there?
Got the seats. We're sitting in the upper bowl. I didn't want to flex my my press pass or anything like that and say I'm Greg. I'm with Overtime Sports Show. I didn't want to do that. I'm going to be a man of the people. I'm going to sit upstairs, with the common folk. Yeah. And hopefully get a good view of the game. So
because you have the other half of the duo. That's why if you had the other half of the duo, we'd be getting down on the ice level. But things happen.
Exactly.
It is what it is.
We would if we were going to be there together, we'd have to do like a photo op and things like that. So, but next show I'll have thoughts on the game. But let's switch gears real quick back to NFL and make sure we get our picks in for this week because you have now the right to defend your quote unquote crown on a week to week basis because you're up a game on me. You are sitting at 6-6 on the season. I'm 5-7 since we've been doing this. And let me just run it back for those who didn't catch the earlier part of the show. But Dan, you went 2-0 this week. Your lock for this past week was Indy, 2.5 points. They won pretty handily. And your upset was Minnesota. Josh Dobbs, your boy, he got it done for you.
Dobber for the lobber, man.
Right. Yep. And me on the flip side, I was in a shameful 0-2. Don't feel so bad about the Bucs because, again, Stroud had some magic there, but I was very, very, very wrong about the Seattle Ravens game. So I got a little catching up to do, but I'm feeling okay about it. I got some thoughts on some picks, and I'll go first. I usually don't do my homework, but I did this week, so I'll go first. I'll give you some time to think about it if you need it. But looking up and down the games this week, it's a tough week. There's not a whole lot that initially jumped out at me in terms of a lock, something that I thought was, I guess you could say, safe. I want to respect the Ravens, and I'm looking at that score. They're giving 6 to the Browns. Based on the points they're putting up, I feel like they could do that. But you know me, I try to stay away from divisional games, so I'm staying away from that one, especially with how good the Browns defense tends to be. So I'm not touching that one. I can't believe I'm even seeing this, but we know that Thursday Night Football doesn't flex games. So I think the entire nation, we're all going to be subjected to the Panthers and Bears. Yeah, maybe I'll find something else to do. Maybe I'll go to a book class or a knitting class on Thursday because that game's going to be tough. But staying away from that one. I don't love the Colts Patriots. That looks like it's a pick 'em. 49ers Jags. I mean, I'm kind of tempted to pick the Jags as an upset, but I'll get to that in a moment. Bengals Texans. We talked about Joe Cool. Burrow is playing well, but how can you go against Stroud? I mean, these games are really tough. These games are tough. And then, I mean, look at this. Falcons and Cardinals. You got the Falcons getting one, but apparently Murray's going to be back. So to me, that's just a wild card. So I have to go my lock of the week looking at one of the later games. It'll be a 4:05 game. They're coming off a bye. I'm going with Dan Campbell's Lions, given 2.5. All they got to do is win by a field goal. Right. We talked about it. I am not a Chargers fan. I think Staley, I don't think he's a great coach. I don't believe in Herbert. I think if Herbert was on any other team, I think he would be facing a lot more scrutiny. So I'm taking the Lions coming off a bye. I think that they definitely win that game. I think they win it probably by a touchdown. That's my
Damn.
lock.
Damn.
And then, yeah, you heard it. You heard it. We'll see.
All right.
And then going to the upset, if you're surprised about the Lions pick, I think this is absolutely going to stun you and floor you. And I'm cringing to even make it.
Giants? Don't tell me Giants.
Going Giants, baby. I'm going Giants. I'm going Giants.
16 and a half.
Giants. I have 17. Are you going to give me 17?
Okay. Yeah.
Give me 17,
brother. Take 17.
I got it on mine at 17.
Okay.
That is
Mhm.
such a disrespectful number. And I'm not saying it's not warranted. I'm saying the Giants have played 9 games this year and they deserve to be disrespected. But I'm staring at that number that is massive. And I don't care if Tommy DeVito is quarterback and he's the third string. I don't care how bad they've looked. I don't care that they're on the road. And I don't even care that Dallas put up 40 on them and won 40-0. That was week 1. That was moons ago. I think the entire New York Giants team is playing for pride. I think Daboll is playing for pride. If he and his team get embarrassed this Sunday, I think he is going to have to answer to a whole hell of a lot more than he's already had to answer this season. I don't think he wants any part of those questions. I don't think they win this game, but I do not think they lose by 17 or more. So give me the Giants to cover as
I was gonna make it interesting for you there, buddy boy.
That's already interesting for me. I'll hear you out. I'm not probably going to want to take what you got, but what are you thinking?
I'll give you an extra point if you take them to win outright, my friend. Okay.
You have to give me more than that. You have to give me a couple points.
I'm
that would
saying.
be the miracle of all miracles.
Just saying. You just said they don't want to hear the questions. They don't want to hear all this. They don't want to hear all that. I'm just saying.
I can. I am taking them plus 17. I mean, how can I not? I mean, that is I think, tell me if I'm wrong. Is that not the biggest spread we've seen by far? I don't think
I believe it has. I think the highest one was like 14.
14, right. I think we've seen it. Maybe the Cardinals playing someone was 14. It might have been
Dolphins
Dallas.
too. Dolphins too. The Dolphins were high. Yeah.
But 17. Oof.
I got some interesting ones too.
Yeah. You got mine out there. What do you got? You want to go lock or upset first?
You want to go easy one with no explanation, or explanation first and then easy one?
This is your picks, man. I'm just living in it. It's your world. I'm just living in it. You tell me.
Well, they both got explanations. So my upset of the week is going to be the Texans plus 7 against Cincinnati.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is my boy Jamar Chase, my dude, my man. Everybody knows I love that dude. I've had him since day one in our fantasy league. He's a little gimpy with his back. He fell on his back on Sunday night, so he's questionable. And 7 points is a lot of points with Stroud. So I'm just saying that's my explanation. And then my lock, and what I mean by lock, it's remember we talked about this last week. If I want to take a team straight up and it's still an upset, but I still want to take them straight up, I'm going to take my 49ers against the Jaguars. I'm just going to take them to win. I don't give a hell about 3 points. We're going to win.
Okay.
So does that work?
It does. Wait, who are you taking to win?
I'm just taking the 49ers to win. I don't want the points. They're going to win no matter what.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's just all right. I'll give it to you. You're just taking them.
I thought we did a rule like that last week. Or remember?
What we did was if the team was an underdog getting points, we could take them as our lock. I think what we said. They're going to win no matter what, so I don't need points. But see, no. But see, I don't think I can let you skate on that because that's the whole point. You got to take the line because I could sit here and say Dallas is going to win no matter what. I mean, we all know that. That could be my lock.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You see what I'm saying? I'd have to pick Dallas 17.
So my lock is -3. My bad. That's not my fault. My bad.
Yeah. Do you want it? I don't want to force it on you.
No. We're fine. My screen was messed up. It's -3. -3.
Okay. All right. So
I thought that the Jaguars were -3, so that's my fault.
I see. Okay, yeah. If that was the case, then you're right. If it was the other way around, if they were getting +3, you would just take them to win.
That's what I thought. I thought it was +3. My fault.
Okay.
So yeah, -3 is my lock, and then +7 is my upset.
Yep. So Interesting. I didn't know where you were going to go with that game. I thought maybe you were going to take the Jags as your upset because at home, I think the way San Fran has been playing, you don't think so, huh?
They're off a bye week. They're fresh. They're fresh off a bye week.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I need him like nobody's business.
Yeah, is he coming back?
I hope so. I have my fantasy team sitting at, when are we going to be? We're 9 weeks through. I'm going to be sitting at 7-2 now, feeling good, second place, but I am missing some Dolphins players this week, Mostert. Yep. I'm missing some Eagles players, Devonta Smith. Yep. I'm missing Cooper Kupp on the Rams, so I'm down a couple backs. My kicker's out. I'm decimated this week because of the buys, but what really hurts me is Kupp and Smith. I don't have any receivers to plug in unless Debo comes back. They say he's healthy, but man, do I need him to be right and have a good game, or else.
I hope he does.
Yeah. So interesting. That's going to be a good game. I'm going to want to pay attention to that one.
Oh yeah.
San Fran needs they need a win.
Oh, they will.
Or else that division is still open between Seattle and the Rams.
They will.
Your Houston pick, I like it. It's very, I'll say it's gutsy. Stroud has we talked about him earlier. He's been super, super impressive. I'm curious. I know they were on the road in Tampa. They'll be on the road again. I think
it'll be they were home. They were home against Tampa. They were home against Tampa.
They were?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought they were in Tampa.
All good.
Well, then maybe that actually adds some credence to my point. So they were home, and now they go on the road to Cincy. Cincy's a tough place to play, tougher team than the Bucs. So, that'll be an interesting one. I give you credit for going to that.
Watch out for Chase because, like I said, he's gimpy with his back. That's the only thing I'm worried about. So, and I need him for my fantasy squad too, but we'll see what happens.
Before we sign off, let me see. Oh, we haven't gotten waivers to come through yet. I don't even know if I can say this because we're doing a live and recorded show, and there's potential for some of our co-GMs to maybe get some snooping action going on here. But there's a player I've got a waiver claim in for that's on the Bengals, and that's all I'm gonna say.
Oh, Tyler Boyd. Okay.
He
I don't
said
need that mother. I don't need that mother.
I know you don't, but there's some other people in our league who maybe
I have a waiver wire for Dauber for the Wobber, and I put a lot of money on for him. And I also have a waiver wire from Jackson Smith-Njigba from the Seahawks. So we'll see what happens there.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm impressed that you got Boyd. That was solid.
We'll give him a little background because a lot of people are probably confused about the nickname. Dauber for the Wobber, DOB. We used to do World of Beer. We had a friend that used to call me Dauber for the Wobber. And Joshua
other way around. Wobber for the Dauber is what.
Wobber for the Dauber, World of Beer. Yes. So, Joshua Dobbs. That's where it is. The background. Just giving everybody a background. That's all.
I do like that. I didn't even really catch that at first, but
that's going to be the nickname. That's going to be the team. That's going to be the team nickname.
Okay. Yeah.
Unless somebody outbids me, and I'm going to throw my thing to the screen if that happens tomorrow morning. Oh boy.
Yeah. I outbid. I believe it was our boy Don's Ghetto Pimps. I outbid him for the Saints defense last week. They were playing against who was it that they were playing against? Somebody bad. Maybe it was the week before because they were playing. Who did they just play this past week? They were playing somebody that was not good.
They played hold on one second. All right, load. They played
the Bears. That's what it was. So I really thought that they were going to do even better, but I picked them up and I outbid your boy Don. So you got to use that money wisely. We do free agent budget bidding in our league, and you get $100, and you got to use it wisely. So
waiver, yeah.
I hope you get it. Yep.
We'll see. Tomorrow morning we'll be fired up. Somebody gets them. Oh boy.
Yeah. We'll see.
Great stuff.
We went pretty long and we covered a lot of stuff today, but it was another awesome show. As you mentioned, we're hoping next week there's a high probability we have a special guest in front of the program that'll be joining us. He's a man who's in the sports industry and the sports biz. So we'll have some questions and some interesting takes on what he does for a living and get his thoughts on some teams in the South Florida area where he's located. So stay tuned.
He'll be bringing beers too. He'll be bringing beers.
Right, he'll be joining us for the beer segment. He'll be a special guest doing a cameo for us on the beer segment. So you'll get 3 reviews. It'll be a treat for next week. But we didn't drop it earlier, beginning of this show. But as always, for us, it'll mean a lot to us for friends, family, and even strangers out there to give us a shout out on the book, on Twitter, like us, subscribe. We're still looking for that. We're trying to grow this thing. So send us a message, give us a kudos and a thumbs up. We're out there on all the platforms. Send us an email, info@overtimesportshow.com. We'd certainly love to hear from you guys. We appreciate everybody watching. Dan, as always, it was an awesome show. You and I will be talking, and
always a pleasure.
Doing it again.
See you boys later.
Got it.
Boys later. Yeah, Mike.
Peace out.
Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Come on. Everybody come, everybody come, everybody.